Hello and welcome to the Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard tactics video. Now before we get into today's video, I would like to say a huge thank you to Philip Pascalis for sending in some awesome pictures of his Imperial Guard army. This entire force is actually a company dedicated to bodyguarding Commissar Yarrick. Absolutely fantastic and cool idea. The old man gets a whole battle company to protect him. It's so Imperium. Be amazing. I just love it. So really like these pictures. Thanks for sending them in, Philip. If anyone else has got any cool pictures they want me to use in my videos, then please post them on my Facebook page, or you can email them to me at mordianglorytv@gmail.com. And don't worry if you can't remember, I will put a link down to the Facebook page in the description below, and I will also put the email address down there as well, so you can find it there. But without further ado, let's get on with today's video. So today, guys, continuing with the Yarrick theme, we're going to be talking about orcs. Now, for those of you that have been paying attention to leaks and reveals and whatnot, orcs are, they're coming around the mountain, they're around the corner. And, we've had the Beast Snaggers box go on pre-order. There are certain copies of the codex that will be floating around, and there's all sorts of good stuff going on. And basically, orcs are going to be one of the next armies to hit the scene. And what I wanted to talk about is some predictions of mine of what we're going to see be the competitive sort of orc meta. Now, first and foremost, the question that I'm going to sort of ask and answer is, do I think the orcs are going to be the next broken army? Are they going to be AdMech level? Are they going to be Dark Elder level? Now that's actually a bit of an interesting question, because I'm actually, it's a bit of a yes and no answer. You see, from what I can tell in the orc book, from what I've seen, and bear in mind we've not got the full thing yet, so this is a bit of a, predictions kind of video, theory hammer video. There's some stuff in the orc book which seems to have been sort of nerfed, weirdly. And they've got some stuff which is really, really powerful. The new Beast Snaggers kill rig, for example, I did a Facebook post about that earlier this week. That's looking insane. You've got the new white squig, and I think the cat's called Morzog on top of it. He is super points efficient with fantastic rules. So you have some stuff like that, and then you have some weird nerfs where it's like, okay, but why would you ever run a Morkanaut now? Why would you ever run like a battle wagon when you can take the kill rig, for example? So I think the internal balance of the codex is a bit squiffy, not going to lie. And I think that will mean that there will be some builds in the Orc Codex which are filthy, which are really good, which are top tier competitive. But I don't think it's going to be an army-wide, a codex-wide sort of thing where you can basically throw together whatever you want and you'll still be powerful. Which is what it was like with Dark Elder. I mean, people think that Dark Elder have got weaker. They haven't. AdMech have a couple of very, very good, specific, good builds, and they've got a few of them. They've got a fair few of them, don't get me wrong. But there is, with AdMech, there is, a standout way of running them, which is, Scutari, Las Chickens, and then whatever you want for seasoning, Infiltrators, Raiders. That's the go-to build. And there are lots of stuff in the go-to strong, but there are also a few head-scratcher units in the AdMech Codex. Whereas what I would say with Drukhari is it was all fantastic. You could throw anything together and you'd be having a great time. With Orcs, I think they're going to have a few, a decent amount, not one, they'll have a few incredibly strong builds. But there'll just be some stuff in the codex which just kind of feel bad. So that's a bit of a shame from obviously an internal design point of view. Now, speaking of competitiveness, what do we think is going to be looking good? So from what we've seen, there's going to be two standout orc clan cultures, or regiment traits, or chapter tactics, whatever you prefer to call them. Two standout traits which are going to be tearing up the competitive scene. You're going to be having the Snakebites, and you're going to be having the Goffs. Okay. Now the Snakebites, they essentially have inbuilt semi-transhuman. So they're going to get transhuman physiology, which means, or trans-orcian physiology, whatever you want to call it, where they'll only be able to be wounded on 4s against anything strength 7 and below. So strength 8 will still wound them fine. But anything strength 7 and below can only wound them on 4s. Now actually, in a funny sort of way, because orc boys and stuff have gone up to toughness 5, this actually, whilst very, very strong, is almost not as good as it could have been if they've left orcs toughness 4. Because it means it only really affects strength 6 and strength 7 weaponry. But basically, still, anything that's decent anti-horde, so you're looking at heavy bolters, wounding on 4s because natural toughness 5, auto cannons and their equivalent, you know, and I'm not necessarily talking about the guard auto cannon here, but think about your knight armigers, for example. Those guys have got rapid fire auto cannons. They're going to be having a difficult time. Assault cannons and their equivalent are going to be struggling because they're only going to be wounding on 4s. I mean, they've gone from wounding on 3s to wounding on 4s. It's just not ideal. And then you've got to take into account that there will be that this will also apply to some of their vehicles. So the kill rig, for example, is an absolutely fantastic unit. I think you're going to see 3 in every list until they sort the points out, because that thing is really powerful. But the kill rig toughness 8. So basically, anything that hits that kill rig is gonna, you know, it's not gonna care, and it's gonna have the ramshackle ability. You've got to basically hit that kill rig with a las cannon or a demolisher cannon before you start really doing any damage to it. So it is a really powerful unit. So yeah, so there's a few things going on there. So that's one of the big things about Snakebites, and they do have lots of other stuff, but this is sort of a general overview video that we're doing. Now the Goffs are, if the Snakebites are durable, then the Goffs are dead killy. Now bear in mind that Goff players are going to be running Green Tide. That's my prediction. Not necessarily just spamming boys, but I mean they're going to be bringing a lot of boots to the field. And what you're going to be seeing with Goffs is the reason you'll see lots of boys is because boys a bit between the toughness increase and the boost of power that they get from Goffs, they're actually like overall just 50% better at everything that they do, point for point. Okay, so orc boys are 2 attack standard, and they get an extra attack from the chopper, and now those choppers are AP -1, which is fantastic. They also get exploding 6s on the charge. So when they charge, if you get a 6, it counts as 2 hits. So that's fantastic. And then they also get +1 strength on the turn that they charge. So what's really powerful about that is it kicks orc boys. One of the big things people are going on about beast snaggers is the fact that they've got strength 5, and then you start looking at +1 to wound, and they're just having a great time at wounding because they're in that strength 5 bracket. They're having a great time against everything. Well, Goff boys are in the same boat, but they're cheaper than beast snaggers. So Goff boys, on the charge, they are going to be strength 5, which puts them in that sweet, sweet place of they're going to wound everything marine equivalent on 3s, and everything at worst, from including knights, they're going to wound on 5s, which is massive. Massive. A squad of boys with the additional AP, with the extra attacks, they're going to go into things like knights, and they're going to start pulling them down, whereas before they wouldn't. An orc boy, for example, and I'm not saying that they'll kill a knight in one turn, I'm not saying that, but just to give you an idea of the difference. An orc boy has gone from wounding a knight on 6s with no AP, so the knight having a 3-up save, to wounding the knight on 5s and putting the knight onto a 4-up save. So at both points there, they've got significantly more efficient. They've literally doubled in efficiency at both those points. They've gone from a 60% chance to wound to a 33% chance to wound. They've gone from the knight passing 33% of its saves to the knight only passing 50% of its saves. Now, literally, they have got huge amounts of efficiency increase, and then you take into effect. So I think if you do the math out, and bear in mind I'm quoting what I've seen here. I haven't crunched the numbers myself, but I trust some trusted people have done this on the online community. And roughly speaking, against the majority of targets that boys are going to be facing, especially Goff boys, you're looking at least a 50% increase in efficiency, point for point. But they've only gone up by 1 point per model. So they've gone up, I think, like 16% roughly in terms of points, roughly, and they've increased in efficiency by 50%. So it's really, it's really good. And then you've got to take into account that they're also significantly more durable now. So you're looking at, boy, now all those anti-horde weapons like heavy bolters and whatnot, they're only wounding them on 5s. So they are significantly more durable. I mean, unless you're... The Guard are actually in a surprisingly good position against them because our lasgun fire hasn't been effective, and lasguns were always quite good at trimming boys down. Not perfect, but quite good. But if you're running a lot of... if you're running any strength 4 weapons, they're no good against boys now. And even strength 5 weapons aren't ideal. You've really got to, you've got to be hitting boys with demolisher cannons to win them on 2s. And that's assuming you're shooting like, as we said, Goff boys. If you start, if you're shooting them, if you're shooting Snakebites, anything up to strength 8 is wounding on 4s. And even your strength 8, which is where you start getting into your melter, your plasma, your dedicated anti-tank stuff. Your strength 8 stuff is only, and strength 9 is only wounding on 3s. When you shoot a las cannon, you're only wounding on 3s. So, and you don't want to be shooting las cannons at them. You don't want to. So the point is that, wrapping up from this, boys are a big standout unit. Where the cleverness of all players will have to come in is how they handle the morale now, because mob rule has changed significantly. So boys have got more efficient and more killy and generally overall, but they're not doing as well on morale. So there's going to have to be some things there. There's no unstoppable green tide stratagem anymore, which again is an issue for green tide. So but I think even with those factors, I think you're still going to see, I reckon 120 boy lists. I think that's what you're going to see, because as someone who has run pure infantry guard with 0 morale boosting support to a tournament, took that list to a tournament, 260 guardsmen, not a conscript, there's lots of conscripts in sight, not a commissar in sight. I found that I would just, because if you actually do the math hammer on big squads, in 9th edition they're actually less susceptible to morale than like 5 to 10 man squads. 30-man units are actually very good for morale. Yeah, because you don't just automatically flee all the time now. So you may find that those big squads are doing okay. So my prediction is what you're going to see in a really competitive orc boy list. Now, it might be quite amusing to come back and watch this video in 6 months' time, because this could be totally wrong. But my prediction is you're going to have a really strong core of boys. I think you're going to be seeing, I think the original minimum of 3 mobs is going to go up to 4 mobs now to compensate for no unstoppable green tide and morale. I think you're going to then see beast snaggers. I think you're going to see the big white squig. I think he's going to be in every competitive list. He's so damn points efficient. And you're going to start seeing the kill rigs as well. And I think that's what you're going to find is going to be a really strong orc list. There'll still be points left over from that. So at that point, you're going to start seeing units to play for objectives. So you're going to see things that can deep strike for engagement fronts and stuff like that. So that's where you're going to start seeing those units. So yeah, that's my prediction. Now, as Guard, how would we deal with a list like that? Well, I think it's, in a funny sort of way, it's business as usual. I think that we're going to be running tank cannon demolisher, tank commanders with demolisher cannon, because they're going to be able to deal with the killer rigs, and they're going to be able to wound boys on 2s, and they're going to have blasts, so they'll be fine for anti-horde clearance. I think we're going to see, we're going to be using lots of guardsmen, and I think those guardsmen are going to be first rank fire, second rank firing, and having a great time. What do I think? And I think full payload manticores will still be around because they'll be able to get full payload manticores are all right. What do I think is going to be? Well, what do I think is going to drop off first? What do I think is going to drop off? I think, interestingly, if orcs become quite meta dominant, you might find that you're not taking double heavy flamer chimeras anymore, because even though they are good, their efficiency against orcs is not as good. Now, they're still, if you're going to take chimera, it's still the best way to outfit your chimera. But I think you're going to see less double heavy flamer chimeras because we're starting to see a lot of toughness 5 stuff around. Marines are getting heavy intercessors and whatnot. Dark Elder, all their stuff went from either toughness 5 to toughness 6, like raiders and whatnot. Now orcs, toughness 5. So everything's getting tougher. And I think that the double heavy flamer is not going to quite cut it, unfortunately. We'll see. But I think you're better off taking more first rank fire, second rank fire las guns than you are taking chimeras against orcs. And that's where I think you're going to see a real drop off of anything that's like strength 9 or strength 8, anything like that. I think you're going to be like, nah, not going to worry about that when facing orcs, because it's not going to have the impact you're going to need it to have. I think, again, you also won't need as many dedicated transports because orc shooting has gone a bit down the pipe. Dakka guns are looking like a nerf in many cases. And yeah, I think orc shooting is going to be a bit worse. Last but not least, I think depending on how dominant orcs become, the guard has an ace up its sleeve, which is Commissar Yarrick. See, Commissar Yarrick has a reroll all hits against orcs bubble. So any unit within 6 inches of Commissar Yarrick can reroll all hits. Normally it just rerolls ones, but if you're facing orcs, it's all hits. So that just starts making things insane, quite frankly. Yeah, that really does just start bringing the pain levels. I mean, I could go on about that, but that's pretty self-explanatory. One thing I do want to say though, I know some of you are going to roll your eyes so hard that they pop out the back of your head. Scions, okay? I'm not sure if Scions will have a good matchup into orcs. We'll have to see. We do have Dakka primes, but for Scions, we're talking pure Scions here. Your main form of anti-infantry is your Dakka primes, and they're not going to be having a great time shooting into orc mobs. And you've also got hotshot volley guns, which are typical Scion horde clones, but again, they're not very good at dealing with toughness 5 infantry. So it's a bit of a tricky one. Your main sort of take-all comes firepower is going to be plasma. Again, not ideal because it's okay against the hordes, but you don't really want to plasma hordes. And it's not going to be as good against things like kill rigs. I mean, you've got elimination protocol sanctions for dealing with kill rigs, but again, you're only wounding those kill rigs on 4s, so it's a bit of a tricky one. I think, and again, your Valkyries, or boyz are toughness 5 now, so your Valkyries are only winning on 4s. It's a real tricky one. I don't think this will happen. I really don't think this will happen. But the Taurox battle cannon may start seeing some relevance. But I reckon if you math hammer it, the Gatling's still better. But the reason the Taurox battle cannon might become better is because it's got AP and better strength. But then if you start coming across Snakebites, that Taurox battle cannon is a total waste of time because it's only strength 7. So I don't think, for anyone who's thinking about that option, I don't think it really is an option. I think it's a trap. I think you're still better off going for maximum firepower. What I think will become useful against orcs is hotshot lasgun squads with first rank fire, second rank fire. And I think you'll start seeing Capic Eagles become more relevant than Land of Lions if we enter an orc-dominated meta. I'm not sure we will, But if we do, Capic Eagles I feel will be better, because you don't need all the really high strength AP, high strength AP, high AP as you do with Landed Lions, because Orcs tend to have pretty crap saves anyway. So I think even though hotshot volley guns aren't ideal, if we are starting to enter this horde meta with Skitarii hordes and sister hordes and orc hordes, even though volley guns aren't ideal against orcs, they're still the best anti-horde we have as Scions. And I think, you know, if you're going to take hotshot volley guns, you want to take Capic Eagles. If that's what you're going to spam, that's what you've got to, you know, you want to be looking at Capic Eagles to do that. So those are my predictions. Those are my thoughts and thinks about it. What do you guys think? I am really interested to know what the Guard community is thinking about the new Orc Codex. Is it business as usual? What do you think is going to drop off in effectiveness as units? You know, I think Bullgryns are going to become way less effective against Orcs. I think Bullgryns are starting to enter their twilight, because against things like Drukhari and Admech, they just die. And against Orcs, especially Goff, especially Snakebites, they're going to be bad. Sisters can ignore their in-run save, so I think Bullgryns are starting to wax and wane a little bit. But we'll have to see. What do you guys think? Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. If you have enjoyed what you've seen and heard here today, please consider heading on over to the Patreon page. There will be a link down in the description below. It is thanks to my fantastic patrons that I'm able to stay on the cutting edge of the meta. In fact, I've got another tournament signed up to this weekend. I've got another one that I'm going to in September and August. It's tournaments like every month, every 2 weeks, and I'm able to do that thanks to the absolutely fantastic and generous support of my Patreon supporters, and it allows me to do these sort of competitive videos and predictions and whatnot. Thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and of course, I'll see you guys next time.